Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Program with Ciantier, and today we are going to continue working on a timeline overview display. But before I get into the meat of today, I just want to come over here and add this. I tried to save the previous, at the end of the previous episode, I made a gigantic timeline thing to test stuff and was like, here's how everything's broken, whee! And I wanted to save that, and I tried, and then it was like, all of your descriptions are null. And that exploded. So I want to add this to prevent further future explosions. Because I don't really like my code exploding like that. That was unfortunate. Okay, so I've spent some time thinking about this line problem that you may recall from last time. If not, just to quickly go over it. What happens is if I have a line, I'm not properly multiple events at the same time, I'm not properly accounting for those events in order to shift stuff over, if that makes sense. So I did some thinking, again, on a piece of paper. I highly recommend pen and paper for thinking, or I mean like a whiteboard and whatever, but just some sort of way of actually writing with your hand. I guess you could use like a tablet or something as well, but there's nothing quite like thinking that way. So I identified two particular cases. So the first case is I don't have any split nodes in the line. So that's going to affect things up. What is it? Where is it? Like, it's in here. Yes. So that's going to affect our candidate checking right here. Because this guy, if we have a child, then we kind of go off on that tangent, right? But if we don't find a child, is this? Did this one? Interesting. No, this is going through all the nodes in the timeline. So yeah. No, this is fine. So this is searching for nodes in the timeline that need to have rightmost nodes. Okay, so yeah, we should be right? No, now I'm confused. I've confused myself. So we're in it. Okay, so this node needs a rightmost child. So we're checking if there's any nodes before this one that affect things. I've confused myself, so now I'm needing to... What I'm trying to identify is whether or not searcher right here needs to account for... No, it doesn't. Yeah, okay, this is fine. Because if the raw values are not the same, that means that this is going to have a child and right. Okay, this is interesting. I need to check a case here. How do I make this? What I'm trying to process, and I need to kind of verbalize it so I can actually figure out what I'm looking at. What I'm trying to process is when I come in here and I'm looking for a timeline, if this is like so let's just make a split timeline overman, and then if I add another, well, I need to add an event. Let's just add a standard event to overman at 1,000 the base drop. Okay, so we have the base drop over there. So if we add an event to this, let's add two more split timelines, and let's put them at 50. I don't know. Left, right. What I'm wondering is, will I hit left before I hit right? So let's just add a standard event here at 50. What is it like? Is it? Yeah, it's Control R for relative. Left drop and Add a standard event at 75 and just call this right drop. And then if I display everything, here's overman. Yep, exactly. This is exactly what I was expecting. So what we're seeing right here is these are on a line, but this does not check for lines right here. So that is going through here. It's saying, oh, here's left and right, but it finds left, and so it goes to here and it goes to left drop. So if we scroll this out, you'll see as things get smushed that overman right here is basing its position off of left drop, not off of right drop. It should be basing it off of right drop. So right here, this is bugged as well. So I need to fix that. This was a very simple test case to engineer. We have the base drop way down there because everything else is really small. But so it should be looking at right drop. So there's how do I word this? Probably I have a little bit more function than I need. I'm not sure. Or a little bit less. I don't know. So the basic point though is that this needs to check lines. Okay, so what I identified is case 1, we don't have we're in candidate search mode. And we don't have any split lines or any split nodes in the line. In that case, I need to have a variable that I'm using to track the total width of the previous longest line, which may just be a node. It may be multiple nodes. So this whole while loop is going to need to be modified. This one right here probably needs to be modified in the same way. This is what I'm saying is I feel like I've got too many things going on, because I feel like this and this are kind of doing the same thing, sort of. Except this is finding the rightmost node and assigning it to the timeline parent. And I have 2 different times that I'm doing that. This one I think is probably... I've algorithmically confused myself. Okay, so one of the things though that I do know that I need to add is right here I have rightmost node. I need to add a public list timeline event node rightmost node candidates. So what I'm going to do with this is I realize that I have a case with some of these lines where I need to identify what my candidates are, and then I'm going to need to resolve my timeline candidates. So where's my set information? So right here, I need to actually call 2 functions. And the second one is going to be resolve rightmost node candidates. Okay, and this function right here is going to do what it says on the tin. So we have this rightmost node processor. Actually, you know what? I can just dump that function there instead of putting it right here. I'm still going to leave that in the whatevers because it's fine, but I might as well go ahead and dump that there. So resolve rightmost node candidates. Okay, so what this function is going to need to do is it's going to need to use events root. And basically I need to go over to like how my render code works. Where's my render timeline? Right here. So how do I set this up? Render timeline. What do I use last for? Clearly I make it. Do I actually use it for anything? Oh, okay. I use it for the dates rendering. If last doesn't equal null, then I can render. Okay, that's fine. So render timeline. I want to do something similar to this. So I'm going to just take this code. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a resolve rightmost node candidates recurse, and this is going to take a timeline event node. Okay, and I'm just going to take these guts right here, and this is going to call this bad boy on this. Okay, and then instead of root, this is going to be node, and I don't need to return null because this is a void. Okay, so instead of render man, I mean, I'm going to probably leave it render man. This doesn't need to exist, and this, remember, this was looking for the last one. So, really? Why is it not exploding that? I don't know why IntelliSense is not making that line red. Okay, so what I want to actually do is, instead of draw, I want to call a new function to collapse. Okay, so like this is going to be a little bit, what's the right word? It's going to like have some skipping over stuff. If node equals null, or node dot, well, no. If node is equal to null, we return. And then while node is not equal null, we don't need renderman here. We can just go while node does not equal null. In fact, we don't even need this. While node does not equal null, if node.child does not equal null, then we don't need to render dates. We don't need that. We just need this giant function on that, and we don't need G anymore. And then I don't care about that. We just need to go. I don't know why I copied and pasted that now, because I had to modify like everything. Okay. So what we're going to do is iterate over all the nodes, collapsing candidates. Okay. So what this is going to do is this right here, instead of being public, is going to become private. Going to make a bunch of code explode, but that's going to allow me to be able to see those red marks where things are wrong. That's going to allow me to be able to quickly identify spots where I need to fix stuff, i.e. I need to add stuff to the rightmost node candidates. And then I'm going to add a public void collapse rightmost node candidates. And what this is going to do is this is going to basically, it needs to pick the it needs to basically go through its candidates and say, okay, you need to collapse your candidates so I can figure out which one of you is the furthest right. So let's see, for each timeline event node in rightmost node candidates, this guy, please. Okay. So I need the biggest criteria for this is int spacing equals 0. Okay, so node dot collapse. Okay, so it needs to do this collapse first on that guy. And then what this does is it allows the X and Y to work, or it allows the X to work. Okay, because right now X is going to not get or it doesn't have a candidate. So spacing equals node, or no, if, actually I'm going to do it this way, int node info equals node dot x plus node dot, like there's the spacer, but that doesn't really matter. Size dot width. Okay, so this is going to get us effectively like the information about this. So if node info is greater than spacing, what I then want is timeline event node candidate equals null, spacing equals node info. Actually, I'm just, for paranoia reasons, I'm going to make this int dot min value. Actually, no, I don't need to do that. I can leave that 0, because what I can go do in here is go or candidate is equal to null. Okay, so if we don't have a candidate, then we always come down here and we make candidate equal to node. So the basic point of this is going to collapse. So tracking, iterate over our candidates to find the rightmost one. And then this is going to collapse the candidates for this node so that we can find it, basically. So that we can find its info, grab the node's info. That was page down, if anybody was confused. So if we don't have a candidate, or this candidate is further to the right, record the info for this candidate. Okay, so the idea behind doing this is then at the end of it, what we do is rightmost node equals our candidate. Okay, so we found our candidate, and then rightmost node candidates equals null. So I actually want to go up to the start here and go if rightmost etc. is equal to null, return already collapsed. Okay. And then set our actual rightmost node and clear the candidates out. So the idea behind this is if we've already collapsed it, we don't need to collapse it again. And then we want to track our spacing and our current candidate. So here's our list of candidates. We need to collapse them so we can find their X position, because if we haven't collapsed them, we cannot do so. Or we can, but it won't be accurate because it won't actually have a rightmost node assigned to it. So then what's going to happen is it's going to recursively go down all of its possible candidates and have them fix themselves, so that way it can properly evaluate them after I've set up all of the candidates. So this is what I'm going to use as the basis for fixing the line problem, because I'm going to use this to identify what nodes can be the rightmost nodes. So this is particularly for split line. So sometimes this is just going to be one thing, and if it's just one thing, it's just going to be like, okay, we're going to do a bunch of work to find the node info for the one node, and we're going to set up our one candidate, and we're going to assign it to this thing, done. But if there's multiple possible candidates, which according to sort of my evaluation, that can happen in the case where we have additional nodes coming off of a split node or on the same line as a split node after the split node occurs. So in that case, I can have candidates going out, and this can happen multiple times, that I could have potential candidates. I need to find the rightmost non-split node in a line with a split node in it. And so if there is a 1, that's also a possible candidate. So I need to add that to the list of possible candidates. So that way I can identify which one's actually the one furthest to the right. and then I need to collapse everything below this one recursively. That's what this is going to do. This is going to recursively go down all of the nodes and clean everything up and allow me to actually process everything. So that's a lengthy process. So let's go ahead and go to our error spots. Right here, this doesn't like it because instead of setting rightmost nodes, this needs to go dot rightmost node candidates dot add this guy. Okay, so that's kind of the first step to fixing this is doing that. Okay, so that's going to make this actually like compile again, and it shouldn't function any differently than it did before. It's still going to have all of the same problems that it had. It's still going to have the line problem. Now this right here, I need to add accounting for lines. So that's something that I need to do. What I'm actually thinking, however, is if I reach this point, I actually just need to search for the rightmost node coming off of timeline parent next, rather than doing this. And the reason for that is, I think, because this right here, it needs to add, like this will do basically all of that tracking. So this guy right here, this is going to be, I probably actually don't want this line. I probably just want to have search for rightmost. And see, this is fundamentally what I'm running into, is this kind of, yeah, I think it makes sense to kind of break things up a little bit like this, because, yeah, okay, but this is already going to go over all of the, so find rightmost node, in other words, I'm going to effectively want to replace with most of this code. My brains are kind of melting a little bit at the moment. Okay, let me take a moment to kind of think through what's going on here. So this guy goes through and tries to find the rightmost node, but it's going to need to keep track of a bunch of stuff. So a lot of that's similar to what this is going to need to do. So what I'm being given is I'm finding the rightmost node for nodes that have that are split nodes. Otherwise, I don't need to find them. So that's okay. So this is the node that we need to search through. So we need to do this, and then we need to kind of, I see, but I'm doing that because I need this algorithm done. Okay, so what I'm trying to process through is I have kind of 2 bits, and I need to try to figure out what the responsibility of this function actually is. So it looks like what this function is doing is it's 2 parts. The first part is search back. The second part is search forward. But this search forward doesn't do anything different than what this needs to do, basically, if that makes sense. Okay. So, how do I want to approach this? Because what I'm kind of running into is that this function right here is not redundant, because I'm basically needing it for this guy right here. I need to... Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do, I don't know that I have a way to just pause the recording. I'm using OBS, so I don't think I have a specific way of just kind of pausing and thinking for a bit. So what I think I'm going to actually go ahead and do is, this problem is going to need me to just kind of like think for a little while to figure out how I want to rearrange my code before I do stuff with it. So what I think I'm going to go ahead and do is, there's some other stuff that I wanted to attend to. Specifically, stuff with regards to the guy right here. And what I want to do is some better, okay, so let's go ahead and build this. Build succeeded, good. That's what I expected. I'm not going to worry about the overview thing right now. I'm just going to quickly talk about what I want to do. Is I want to add some additional user friendliness. I'm not sure if that's quite the right word, but additional little bits of information, because there's a little bit time left in this episode. So see how this just says timeline up here? Like that's the name of the program. What I want to do is actually, let's go ahead and do one thing really quickly. Stuff. I'm going to put this at 15. That's fine. I'm going to put this at 50 and add a standard event that 90. Okay, so second split and child. And second split, I want to add 2 standard events to at like 15 and 45. Okay, so the reason why I'm doing this is I made a this and children. So right here, this is stuff timeline plus children. So second split, child, obviously you can see stuff is a little borked right now with my thing. It's okay, I'll be fixing it later. Unnamed event. So I've got those 2 things right there. This is different from if I just did Control T, which is second split and child. See? That's second split and child. This is Control Alt T, which has second split and its children and then child. And then Control Shift T, which has the main timeline stuff, its second split, and children and child. So I don't know why that did not... I've got something borked somewhere. It's okay, I'll fix it later. I don't know why the PPT, automatic PPT scaling didn't work, but I think it's just because it didn't figure out which event was supposed to be the last one or whatever, for whatever reason. I'll worry about that particular detail later as well. Right now I need a little bit of a break from some of that end of programming, so I'm going to be doing that soon. So there's a couple of things that I wanted to do then, which is set up sort of default its current file name right now. I want to... Okay, so there's a couple of things that I want to do here. Let's see. I want to... Okay, so what I want to do is I want to just come in here and go current file name equals untitled. Whatever, what is my extension? Timeline something or another. I should have this guy TLF. Okay, so it's a TLF. .TLF. And then when I do new, I want this to be untitled.tlf and current file name equals untitled.tlf. Okay, so the reason why I'm kind of going through here is what I want to do is come up to this guy, and I need to add a, let's go ahead and add a private string current file name. I'm just going to set it to untitled.tlf as well. And then what I want to do here is replace these with actual getters and setters. So what this is going to do is this is going to set current file name equals value, but it's also going to, and this is the important part, I want to make a function. I'm just going to stick it right here. Void update title text. Okay, so I'm going to set that and then update title text. Get just needs to return current file name. So there we go. Clean that up. Okay, so what this needs to do is update title text needs to make a lovely string here. And that's going to be, let's see, how do I want to do this? Because there's two ways that I can format this. The first one is kind of just having the file name. Like right up here, yeah, I think I'm going to follow kind of the model that Visual Studio is using that you can see right up here. So I'm going to go ahead and go string title text. Actually, I don't need this. I can just go text equals, what do I call that? Data, no, I don't remember. Scroll down, data state dot saved. This is a trinary operator. It's kind of like an if. It's kind of like an inline if. So if it's saved, nothing else asterisk. So what that means is when this file isn't saved, you'll see how these have asterisks after them. I'm going to put an asterisk beforehand. Maybe I could put an asterisk afterwards. I want asterisk beforehand because that's going to show up down here. It doesn't matter. Plus current file name plus hyphen timeline. Okay, so now when you assign the file name to it, it's going to update it to look like that. So if I go ahead and run this right now, eventually it will pop up. It should have untitled.tlf hyphen timeline, right? Untitled.tlf. So the goal is when I do something like add a standard event, change the date, change the name, change the description, this will modify to mark that it's been that's not saved anymore. So what I need to do for the first step of that is I kind of need to, let's go ahead and add this static internal form1. Let's see. Let's just call this main window equals null, and then come down here. So this is currently just a Boolean. I'm going to actually do this and make a static internal and turn this to private. So this broke a bunch of stuff, but bool saved. And then I'm going to do a similar thing here. So get returns saved. Set is going to set saved to value. And then if main window does not equal null, main window dot, and it just needs to, that function that I made right here, update title text, just needs to be public. Main window dot update title text. Okay, so now when you change the saved status, it's going to update the title text as well, which is clearly rather important. Okay. So we have a couple of spots where we set save to true. Like right here, we set it to true. When we actually save data, we set it to true, right? So that's definitely what we want. New should also, do I set that to true when I clear data? Where's the clear? Okay, so I should also do data state dot saved equals true. So just setting this stuff up, new data. Actually, yeah, mark this as saved. Actually, instead of putting it there, I'm going to go ahead and just put it here. No particular reason why, it just feels better. Okay, so what we now need to do is we need to add some data state dot saved equal false. And then what we'll eventually want to do is when you go to do stuff like right here, I should do a if data state dot saved equals false, then we want to do a confirmation. So there's 3 parts to this. So what we'll usually do is let's just do a switch. This is actually a good idea. Message box.show unsaved data. So let's just say, do you want to save? Unsaved data, message box buttons. So yes, no, cancel is what we want here. And then this is question, and we make a switch here. So we have case yes, case no. So case no, do nothing, and case cancel, return. So the reason why we want to return here, so the user said they don't want to do this. And right here, what we need to do is we just need to do a save data, I guess. The save data. Okay, so let's just copy this because we're going to need to use this elsewhere. The save data, check file name. Okay, no, it just does that. So that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to do this right here. Rather than save data, we want to do the save tool strip menu, blah, blah, blah. The reason why we want to do this is if the current file name exists, we save the data, but if it doesn't, we show a dialog. We can just pass this null, but we want basically the behavior of a control S here if the user hits yes. So if they've given it a file name, that is if the file exists, then it will save it. But if they haven't, if the file doesn't exist, then it will be like, hey, do you want to name the file and stuff? So they can choose that as well. And actually what we should do here is go if data state dot saved equals false, return. Doing this if they cancel the save as operation. So if they cancel save as operation, then we want to process it that way. Okay, so this right here is super important. There's a couple of other spots where we want to add this. Specifically, we want to add this before open. Because if we're trying to open a file and we have an unsaved file, we should do this before we clean everything out and then open a file, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. And then there's actually one more spot. So we have it on new and we have it on open. But there's actually one more place, and that is on a function that I have not added yet. So save check before quitting. So I need form closing. Yeah, that name's okay. And then do you want to save? Yes, no, cancel. Yes, no, these work the way that we want, but now cancel instead of return. We want the user doesn't want to close the program, and it's not there, like whatever, break. Then what we want to do here is cancel equal true. So yeah. that's what we might want to do technically with this is what we probably want to do is make a dialog result result, and then go if e dot close reason is equal to user closing. Let's see. So basically what we want is if close reason is equal to something else like shutdown or whatever, you might not want to cancel it, but I'm not going to worry about that. That's a potential option. But we just want to cancel the closing if the user hits cancel. So I'm not going to go through like all of that, but I can tell by the timer this has already gotten pretty long. So the next step in kind of this phase of what I'm trying to do is to add a bunch of stuff that sets data state.saved equal to false. So that's just kind of going everywhere and peppering that where appropriate. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. Definitely want to make sure, yeah, after loading the data, we set it to true, which is very important because a lot of the functions that we're going to use to set the data to be not filled is going to have problems potentially with the reading process. So anyway, it's something to get debugged later, but I remembered that I wanted to add it, so I decided to add a little bit now. And hopefully next time we can kind of get some of the stuff that we've got as loose threads wrapped up. So thank you for watching. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.